Well, it's been quite a little while since the Chiefs prevailed in overtime against the Niners in the Super Bowl. And this year, well, the Niners have been bitten by the injury bug, and this afternoon, Sunday afternoon, was no different. Just who prevailed from this ugly defensive showdown.
Detroit and Minnesota. Maybe should have been the game of the week. Did it live up to the hype? Oh, yes, it did.
Someone made their way back to the Meadowlands this weekend. Just how big a performance did Saquon Barkley put up against his old mate?
Monday Night Football, Buccaneers and Ravens. Beginning of the season, not a lot of people would have circled this game, but this game's looking pretty good this week.
Week 7, some exciting matchups and a lot of points thrown around. We'll break it all down on Sunday Scaries with Bucks McGee, and I think it's someone's special day.
Oh, week seven. A lot of good games. We all love the game of the week, but I think this week the NFL kind of got this wrong. But who am I to choose? Nutmeg. How we doing this week?
Well, this Sunday picked the heck of a day to kick off, sir. Happy birthday, big
Thank
4-9
you.
to Bucks McGee. How do you feel?
Don't feel any smarter. Don't feel any, as you're supposed to get older, you're supposed to be all, a lot more mature. I think I'm just getting less and less every year. But nope, feeling good. Feeling good. Thank you, sir.
Maturity is just another word for boring.
Yeah, that's it exactly. Just boring. But no, I'm good. 49. Now it's the drive for 50. So we're gonna see what happens. But interesting week this week, wouldn't you say?
Oh yeah, and speaking of boring, I think that might be an interesting moniker to put on Russell Wilson. Of all the birthday presents you could receive, Mike Tomlin looking probably not so good decision making wise, it would be one of them.
Unbelievable, man. This is something special. I don't get it, but hey, that's why I'm not a head coach.
I mean, there were a couple plays. Fryermuth was able to rip one down the sideline. Russ did throw a rainbow up for a one-handed catch with from Pickens, but it's really been like a less than 50% completion percentages. I don't think now they said during the game where if Justin comes back, they're gonna stick with Justin. I think Mike Tomlin might want to stick with Justin.
Like you said, there were a couple throws where you were like, "Oh, okay, Russ, there it is." But for every one decent pass, there were three or four where you were like, "Really?" Like in the dirt, just not there. Um, but I'm more interested because we kind of knew this is what was going to happen with the Steelers. We really had no faith in Russ. Now, they're in the game, so you can't say anything about it. But the Jets are the more interesting story to me. I still, for this Davante Adams, here he is. Woo woo.
Yeah.
Okay, you made some passes. Aaron's still throwing picks. It's still the same old Jets. I don't see anything more spectacular than I did last week. So
I think
whatever.
I I think I may have called that one. I didn't think Davante Adams was going to cure all that ailed the gangrene.
Nope. There's probably going to be some more. And if they don't pull this game out, I'm sure Monday will be quite interesting to hear who Aaron blames.
Yeah, and I find this one interesting so far because with Davante Adams' debut, he's to me he's been open. Like the defense hasn't like been doubling him or really living in his back pocket,
Mm-hmm.
and Aaron's missing him. So like I can't even before we even get into the other problems the Jets have. Aaron got his prize target back, and he can't hit him when the man's got a nice one-on-one coverage.
I don't think Aaron trusts the O line. I think the O line is still suspect. That's what you should have worked on. And let's be honest, it's Aaron is average. So I don't expect anything spectacular from him. It is what it is. They've got to figure it out. I think you really need to lean on the run game to get the pass game going. And it seems like they started to go to Hall, and then next thing you know, it's all right. Aaron's going to rip off like 10 passes in a row. Let's forget the run game. So it's just
Yeah.
another day in Jets land.
Yeah. And I mean, a win could be a win just the same, but I mean, if it's on it's just yet again same old story. Aaron's just gotta just keeping his head, trying to keep his head above water and letting the defense carry him because there's
Mm-hmm.
not a whole lot of sparks coming out of the offense.
Exactly. So you're going to win because Tomlin just made a bad decision. Let's be honest. If they pull it out,
Right.
it's because Tomlin made a bad decision. It wasn't because you beat the best Steelers team possible. So
I knew it. I've been waiting. I've been saying it 10 damn years. Anyone saying it, Miguel? I've been saying it. I've been saying it. So let's get into Sunday's action. We'll start off with the Super Bowl rematch. And this one, I know you're waiting for the I'm sorry, as you teased off the top, the alleged game of the week.
oh my oh my lord, man, this was hideous, man. This was rough, man. I don't know. The Niners are in rough shape. Ayuk looks like he's out.
Yeah, it looks like a ACL injury. The last we got from Mr. Schefter, last
You
report.
know, Debo had a mystery illness, in warmups. So you basically had like your 4, 5, and 6 guys. Now, mind you, they were there, but I don't know, man. Brock's decision making on a couple passes was a lot to be desired, and I don't know what happened. I felt the Niners defense could have played a lot better. So I don't know,
Yeah,
man.
I'm surprised that Kittle even got the targets that he did,
Mm-hmm.
considering that he was the only person that the Chiefs had to guard.
Yeah, exactly. And then Mahomes looked rough. Mahomes wasn't good. Let's be honest. But he had that dazzling, run down the sideline there, and I don't know how the heck the defender just lets him scoot by. Like no idea. But of course, it was 20 minutes of how great Patrick is and how he can scramble, blah blah blah, and it was mistakes by the Niners. They couldn't capitalize when they were in the red zone, and the Chiefs go on ahead and win again.
Did you feel Tom put on his best Chris Collinsworth, Jim Nance impression and wallowed in Patrick's glory?
Honestly, I feel that if he didn't do that interview earlier in the day with Patrick, it may not have been as love fest as it was. Now, mind you, Patrick had some decent plays. Like I'm not going to deny that, but it wasn't like vintage Mahomes. He was throwing for like 330, 3 touchdowns, and the patented scramble to top the game off. He looked horrible. He threw picks. It was bad tackling by the Niners defense that allowed him to scoot down the sideline. So I don't. It is what it is, but I guess that's the quarterback club. After you retire and you're doing broadcasting, you show love. So that's what
You show love.
show love, and that's what Tom did. It was Collinsworth esque. At least I didn't hear the word magical.
That's true. No
So
man.
it was a magical. So, but they did enough to win. But the Niners self imploded, and I felt they had a shot to win this game. I really did.
Yeah. Well,
Well,
what's like the what went wrong for each quarterback? Is there like actual issues you saw, or was it just a matter of okay, Brock has no one to throw to, and Patrick's going up against a very good San Francisco defense?
well,
Not
let's see.
not to this Kansas City's defense. Obviously, it's a very good unit too.
Well, if you want to be honest, neither quarterback had their receivers. Let's be honest. If you match up the receivers, it was basically, you know, your 4s, 5s, and 6s. It wasn't, there was no number 2s or 3s. Maybe if Debo had played, and was healthy, if Ayuk had stayed, maybe it would have
Mhm.
made some difference. But both guys were depleted in the wide receivers. They had their tight ends. It just seemed that Brock just made a couple throws he shouldn't have. Like he had, the interception in the end zone. Um, there were times where they started to get the run game going, but then it just kind of fizzled. I think they should have tried to maybe pass out of the backfield a little more.
Mhm.
I know you don't have McCaffrey there, but you've got enough backs there where I'm sure you could have figured something out. And with Mahomes, the Niners defense was decent. There were lapses definitely, but for all the hype that everyone gives Mahomes, he still should have been Mahomesian or whatever you want to call him. But he looked as ordinary as he has all season, if not worse. He's had multiple picks. I don't know. I think if they played somebody that was at full strength, they probably would have lost this game.
Yeah, and I mean, going up against Chris Jones, of course, is no easy task. But Jordan Mason also seemed either very underutilized or just completely shut down in this one, just to
Mm-hmm.
add to the amount of pressure on Brock's shoulders throughout the game.
Yeah, he either would get a couple good runs, and then after that there was nothing. But it was either he ran straight ahead, and then after that they tried to pass the ball, and I get it. But Brock made some bad tosses, but I really think they should have thrown out of the backfield a lot more.
Yeah, and he's no Juju Smith-Schuster, but Nico Hardman had quite the resurgence in this one, and I mean, I guess it's good that Miko Hardman's making an appearance, but at the same time, if he's the one you're relying on, and Worthy's going to be in and out of the lineup, and Kelsey's going to be a shell of his former self, it's probably not a good thing.
Let's be honest. The Chiefs are a defensive team now. Let's be
Yeah,
honest. Like if people have this idea that the Chiefs are this offensive juggernaut and they can turn it on at any time. They can't. This season has shown they've become a defensive team, and Patrick has become, and let's use the dirty word, a quality game manager.
quality game
But
manager.
let's be honest. He doesn't. Well, he has made mistakes, but he is able to scramble out like every game, and still nobody figures this out. It is what it is. But that's what they are. There, it's their defense. Now, if they had played the Lions today, the Lions would have whooped them senseless. Let's be real. The Lions would have whooped them. I don't think the Chiefs would have been able to withstand that offense. I just don't. The Chiefs can't go point for point. They'll put up enough points and hope that their defense holds, bends but doesn't break. That's what it's going to become. And down the stretch, if that offense doesn't start to pick up, they could be a one and done out of the playoffs. But you're 6-0, the last man standing in undefeated land.
Yeah.
There you go.
So before we move on to those Lions, with this identity as a defensive team, is that enough to keep them going? Obviously, 6-0 is still 6-0. Is that enough, or is this like just a ticking time bomb until until the flaws are on display for everyone?
My opinion, I think it's a ticking time bomb. I really do. Like you hear people talk and they're like, wow, the Chiefs are still undefeated. They're still doing it. Yeah, but to me, they haven't had a game where it's been like, wow, okay, it's the Chiefs. No, it's been okay. Patrick's done enough to keep them alive in the game, and their defense has either caused a key turnover or done enough against a depleted team to win. Like that's great. You beat a pretty depleted offensive 49ers team. I get it. The Niners defense had lapses, which they shouldn't have. But now I think we kind of have to look at the Niners and say, all right,
Yeah,
they're not the elite anymore. They're not in the NFC. So now it's okay. Who have the Chiefs beaten? Can you really say you have that aura like you've had the last couple of years? I don't think so.
yeah. I think the closest game to a wow factor was probably the opener, and that one they would have lost if Isaiah Likely just kept his feet in bounds.
Exactly. And everyone was like, okay, well, that's the first game. They'll just turn it up, and here we go. The Chiefs wagon is going to start rolling. and that offense has
Hasn't
sputtered.
happened yet.
So,
All right. Well, we have plenty to get to, so let's move on to what turned out to be the actual, as you hinted at, America's Game of the Week: the Lions,
mm-hmm,
Minnesota. The Lions, they got off to a little bit of a slow start, but it didn't take them long to get going
mm-hmm,
and proverbially fire on all cylinders.
mm-hmm.
Uh, they got a little bit of an injury scare from Montgomery, as if they needed another one after Hutchinson last week. I mean, what do you think the defense looked like they were missing Hutchinson? Because they really did okay. I mean, obviously Jettis had a big touchdown, but they really did okay against that Minnesota offense.
They held up. They held up. I think I don't want to say they got lucky, but they very well could have lost this game as they won it. Um, excuse me. It was close. I liked what Minnesota did. I think towards the end it was just they just weren't able to complete some key passes. But overall, Detroit Detroit gutted it out. There was some questionable play calling, you know, at the beginning of the game, but I give the yeah, I don't think you need to go for it on fake punt 4th and 1, at the start of the game, but that's Dan Campbell for you.
At least it's
I
in the first quarter and not in the fourth quarter of the NFC Championship game.
Yeah, exactly. I think the secondary played well, but then also had some holes, some penalties that could have hurt them, but they gutted it out. So you give them credit, and these are the kind of games that you're going to get into, especially in that division. That division is going to be it's going to be a tough one, as the season goes on. There's these 4 teams that are in this division, very well could make the playoffs. So you got to give them credit. Detroit played well enough to win.
Where do you rank Jared Goff amongst his peers in the league right now? He had another game where what was he completed his first 18 passes or something, or 12
But
passes, whatever it was. He was on the road to another perfect game for quite a while, darn near perfect passer rating at halftime. Where do you kind of rank him now amongst the other quarterbacks?
I think he's a top quarterback. He doesn't make many mistakes. He has command of that offense, and let's be honest, he's got a lot of weapons to play with. It's not like he's only got like 1 or 2 guys. He's good. You've got to give Goff his credit. He's even killed, doesn't do too much, doesn't do too little, and he guides that offense. So if you're talking in the NFC, he's a top 3 quarterback in the NFC. If you're talking total NFL, I'd give him a top 5. I really think he's that good.
Yeah, the Sun God was his primary target in this one, but it was also
Mm-hmm.
a little bit of, I don't know if we want to call it a coming out party for Jahmyr Gibbs, but I mean it kind of had an appearance of that with Montgomery going down for a little while. He came back, but he
Mm-hmm.
was out for a little while, and Gibbs at that point kind of got rolling and started to establish his tone in the offense for this game. So I
Mm-hmm.
mean, it's just kind of like coming into form of being a sole one back system, and Montgomery just being a supporting role to Gibbs Batman.
No, not at all. I think it would have been the same as it's always been if Montgomery didn't get hurt. I think it was precaution. There were once Montgomery got hurt, Gibbs took over the lead, and then once Montgomery felt a little better and they let him back in, I think they didn't want to push him and
Mm.
just kind of say, all right, let's see how the game folds out, and we'll take it from there. And Gibbs was great, but I think at the end of the day, Montgomery is still the number 1 guy there.
Yeah, and as far as Minnesota is concerned, was this the bubble burst thing, or was it just like, okay, this is what it's like when you're going to be a contender, you're going to lose games to good teams?
Of
Uh,
course, plus it was a division game. Like you're not gonna sweep through. Like no one was saying Minnesota was gonna go 17-0. Like they were bound to lose a game. So I don't think the sky is falling because you lost to Detroit. It's okay. We were in the game. We lost. It wasn't like they got blown out. They were in it till the end.
mhm.
So you say, okay, Detroit's been, is the favorite in the NFC. So what do we have to do to clean things up to Next time we meet them, we beat them. So that's nothing horrible. You lost the division game, you move on. But I think they're in a good spot.
And they kind of fizzled a little bit at the end. Some better execution, and they could have pulled it out.
Yeah,
The
they
last
had
couple.
opportunities to for sure. They just didn't capitalize.
With with the Vikings, like losing your first, is it better to lose a game like this to an elite competition, or is it better to kind of slip on the banana peel and be like, oh, okay, I guess we're not invincible? Because in theory, like, well, we lost the Lions, but the Lions are a Super Bowl contender. So I
Yeah,
mean, like,
that's what
what's the better loss to have?
I think. That's the better loss. If you lose to somebody, you want to play great competition, and if you get beaten by them, fine. You shake their hand. Yeah, they were better than us. They're a better team. What do we have to do to reach that level? Like if they had gotten blown out by the Panthers, then it was like, you know what, we just didn't come to play. We didn't take them seriously. We weren't prepared, and we got whooped up and to a team that we shouldn't have lost to. So I think it's better to lose to somebody who, in probably a lot of people's eyes, is a Super Bowl Super Bowl team. So nothing wrong with that.
What do you think is the thing after this one they have to work on the most? Because I mean, Aaron Jones, he started off hot, he scored a touchdown, but then he kind of disappeared. Addison was kind of, a little non-existent.
They
What's
need
kind of
they need tight end. They need to go to the tight end a little more. I think if Hawk is supposed to come back next week, so TJ comes back next week, they get him going. I think that's going to open up that offense even more. So I think it's the tight end for them.
another NFC North um, competitor playing this one? They played host to the Texans. I'm quite happy that Green Bay did me a little bit of a favor there. Um, not. I'm gonna say not that we're necessarily in competition for the division, but hey, you know what? We're 4-3. They're 5-2 now. Like,
Anytime someone in your division loses, you take that.
it's a
That's
good
what you
day.
take it.
It just makes Victory Monday all the more sweeter. Um,
Exactly.
so this kind of maybe it's like opened our eyes a little bit. I mean, we've been wondering. Okay, CJ hasn't looked like CJ, the CJ Stroud of last year. Did this one kind of open our eyes? Like, okay, maybe there is something wrong because he was. I don't even think average would necessarily do him justice. Now he didn't implode. He wasn't. He wasn't an embarrassment out there, but he wasn't at all good in the red zone.
Nope.
He didn't necessarily have a positive effect on the game. And Jordan Love, despite a couple turnovers, ran circles around him. So is this maybe a chink in the armor of CJ Stroud?
Could be. Don't forget, could be the sophomore slump. Let's be honest. That's a real thing. It's could be a situation where things just aren't clicking at the moment. I think they probably should have, leaned even more on the run game than they did. Mixon, I think, had a solid game. It was just a bad game, and it's one of those games where you lost to somebody who's. I don't think Green Bay is a Super Bowl contender. I think people were kind of lifting them up a little too much too soon. They're a quality team. They're a solid team. So again, you didn't lose to the Panthers. Not to dump on the Panthers, but you didn't lose to the Panthers. So, but no, it was a bad game. It was a bad game for CJ, and it's just a situation of, okay, you look at the film and you got to clean it up. But yeah, the red zone is what killed him. You have those trips in the red zone, you gotta score. It's because you just don't know in the ebbs and flows of a game if you're going to get back into that. So just a bad look.
Speaking of Green Bay's postseason hopes, I mean the defense. Part of it could just be CJ's slump. Part of it could also be Green Bay's defense could have played very well. So I mean, was this a good litmus test towards how balanced this team is?
Well, the Green Bay defense is solid. It's not an elite defense, but it's a good defense. I think the offense is still trying to figure out who they are. Everyone talks about all the wide receivers they have, but who's the number one? Can you really name the number one receiver on that team?
Even with the win today, it wasn't Jaden Reed.
No. And a lot of times you're waiting for him to be that guy, to be the definitive number one. A lot of people thought Watson was going to be that guy, but he's injury prone, so that doesn't work. Wicks he'll have a great catch here and there, but no one has stepped up week in and week out and been the guy. So I
Wicks
think
is
that
their savior, worthy.
yeah, exactly. So I think once that happens and you figure that out, now it might have to be addition by subtraction because I don't think you can keep all those guys. I think at some point someone's going to end up leaving.
Yeah.
So it's just I think the offense is just going to kind of figure out the pecking order wide receiver wise and just have just get into a better rhythm. And then also, like I said, Love will have a couple series where he's on point, decisive, able to deliver the ball, and everything's good. Then he'll get maybe a little happy feet, try to force a couple passes here and there, and then end up being turnovers. So there's we still got to remember he's growing too.
Yeah.
Like last year was his first real season, so this is his second one. Everyone talked about him in the preseason like, oh wow, like he was like a 4 or 5 year vet. No, this is the second year, so he's still going to go through those things like CJ is, but he played well enough to win.
Yeah, I think you're onto something. What they haven't established a go-to guy. Like even like Kraft, the tight end, he was star last week, and then this week I don't have the box score in front of me, but I don't recall hearing his name on this one.
I think I think he actually had a touchdown.
Okay.
But yeah,
Yeah.
and that's great that you can go to anybody and everybody can perform. But 2-minute drill, who's your guy?
Yeah.
So it's going to be interesting with that aspect. But yeah, CJ had a rough one. Just got to dust yourself off and move on.
Yeah. So remain to be seen, or jury's still out towards Houston's status and Green Bay. Do you think they maybe are on par with Minnesota right now after the Vikings lost, or Vikings still have a clear head up on Green Bay?
I like Minnesota more. I really do. Minnesota to me just seems a little more confident. I think Darnold right now just seems to play a little more confident. He doesn't look to make mistakes. Looks like he'll throw the ball away more than Love will. Like Love will, like we've talked about, he's kind of got that gunslinger feel to him. So, but they're moving up. I just think Minnesota's a little more mature.
Well, we already hinted at one birthday present for you. You got another one on this Sunday, and
oh, people gave the NFC South.
likewise, Green Bay did me a favor, taking Houston down a peg. The Seattle Seahawks, much surprisingly, did your Bucs a favor and not only took the Atlanta Falcons down a peg, but put them on a little bit of an embarrassing pedestal.
That was ugly, man. I don't know. For everyone who's like, yeah, Kirk Cousins, yeah, what, dude? That was just not pretty, Kirk.
I mean, we're almost like in a situation where outside of whatever that explosion was in the first game against Tampa, outside of that, they really have not been good at home. They lost the opener at Pittsburgh. This one was at home against a Seattle team that was reeling and has had a litany of injuries on the defensive side. This should have been one where Kirk went off. So
Yeah.
I mean, it's just a struggle of home games. There's no home cooking in the ETL.
And that's the thing. Everyone was so quick to name Atlanta like, oh, they're a Super Bowl contender. They're just a quarterback away. Yes, the only game where like they looked legitimate was when they beat us in overtime. Kurt's thrown for 500 yards and they've arrived, yada yada yada. Following week they barely squeak it out, and then here we are. Freaking Gino and the boys go in there and whoop them senseless. Kurt's getting sacked, getting whipped up. Bijan's like the only light on that offense this week. I don't know. You have all these pieces. Something's not clicking. And if you're gonna play like that, you're not making the playoffs. You're going to be 9-8 and be Pittsburgh of the NFC. So I just don't know. They're very up and down. There's no consistency. And for the pieces that they added on defense, everybody was like, "Oh, that's what they need. Here we go." I told you they don't scare me. They're not this frightening team. So we play them, this week coming up. Whatever. Okay, the Seahawks whooped you silly. I can't wait for you to come down here. Like, let's go. Like, there's talent, but for some reason they just can't get it together. I don't know if Kurt still isn't feeling comfortable after the injury, or the game plan is just hideous. That game just made no sense to me.
Yeah. The immortal Zach Robinson calling offensive plays.
There you go. That's who you want.
And Seattle was not without an injury scare in this one because DK Metcalf left the game early. So
Yep.
this team that's been desperate to get healthy of late, obviously that they're not out of the darkness yet on that one either.
Nope. Nope. He rode off on the cart, and usually when you ride off on the cart, that's not a good sign. And literally, he's been their offense. In the passing game, Lockett's been pretty much here or there. So if DK's out for a good chunk of time, they're going to have to become a run first team, play action off of that. So it's going to be interesting to see how this affects Geno, because you're not going to be whipping it around. And at this rate, I think he leads the league in yardage. I don't know. That's going to probably be gone in a couple of weeks if DK's gone. So it's tough, but that's the way of the league, So hopefully DK's not hurt and he can get back soon. But that's a big hit.
Yeah, I mean the Kenny Walker is amazing, but I mean it's just similar to how you play in the Niners, you can load up on Kittle because everyone else is hurt.
Mm-hmm.
You're just gonna load up on Kenny Walker and see how it's gonna be very one dimensional. And I don't know if Geno Smith is any more well equipped to carry an offense by himself than Brock Purdy would be.
Well, I think what had happened is they're going to probably use because you can't run Walker into the ground because you literally just got him back. So it's going to be a lot.
You already missed a couple games earlier.
So I think you're going to get a lot of Charbonnet and who knows, but it's going to have to be all hands on deck. Because when you lose somebody like DK, that really hinders the offense.
So let's play a little extra points.
Extra points.
Little fun items to talk about that we wouldn't normally spend like 6, 7, 8 minutes talking about. But the first one, of course, is the return of Saquon Barkley to the Meadowlands. And I mean, you've made fun of the Giants a few times for this over the early going this season, but you think they have a little lack of buyer's remorse now? 176 yards, whatever it was on the ground.
We don't need a running back. We got Danny Dimes. Yeah, go ahead. We're not going to match that. And then did you really think he was going to come back to MetLife and not want to stick it to you? And did he stick it to you? So it's just the Giants, man. And you know what? It's just adding on, building on. And once the offseason hits, get ready for a new quarterback because Danny Dimes is gone. It's over.
Yeah, I didn't necessarily know how to take this one going in because Philly obviously has Saquon's been the only bright spot on this team this season, and they've been a disaster. Sirianni's been a disaster. So I didn't really know how to take this one. But I also knew that Philly, if there's one NFC East opponent the Giants always struggle with, it's always Philly. However, the Giants defense has been playing well. Their problem has been the offense. And here, like you said, Danny Dimes, here is another game where it's just an absolute disgrace on the field. So this is I was not I can't say I was gonna be surprised if the Eagles won, but I'm a little surprised it was this bad.
No, honestly, no. I figured it was going to be a mess. I don't, even though Philly has got their own issues and such, I don't trust the Giants. I think the Giants defense is good for a good half, and then after that, that's when the holes start to show because they're on the field way too much. They're a solid defensive unit. They are. It's just the fact that they're on the field way too much. The offense does them no favors. So it was just a matter of time before Brown scores a touchdown, Saquon's running up and down the field. So everyone in Philly's probably like, oh yeah, things are getting better. No, you beat a horrible Giants team because that's what Philly's done this year. They've beaten teams that they should beat and can't beat the ones that pose a problem. Like Philly isn't good. They're average. So it is what it is. You got to get your division wins how you can because the playoff picture in the NFC is going to be quite interesting, as we get closer, to real division time. But the Giants are a mess. Just finish off the season and move on from Danny Dimes. It's over.
Yeah, and to that point, is this a little bit of fool's gold for the Eagles? They're going to be feeling good not only from a big win and Saquon looking like an animal, but also beating a division rival. Do you think it's a little bit of a fool's gold because Saquon hasn't been the issue this year?
Saquon's been the saving grace, exactly.
Yeah.
So it's a situation of, yes, they had that bit of time when both Smith and Brown were out and they were injured, but you've gotten them back, and still no one trusts Jalen Hurts. No one looks at him as an elite quarterback. He's good, but he's not like, wow. It's like Jalen Hurts is coming to town.
No, and if AJ's out there, Davante Smith might as well not be out there.
Yeah, because all he does is
tunnel vision.
All he's doing is throwing that left side, streak, and that's all he's throwing. Smith is a quality receiver. I don't know what's happened with this offense. It's just turned into AJ Brown and then whoever else if somebody's open, and that's a problem. So, hooray! But no, I don't think people fear the Eagles. I think they're just waiting for them to implode. So I don't even know if you really call them a playoff team. I don't know.
No, Eagles fans are waiting for the Eagles to implode.
Yeah, that's true. They want Sirianni gone. It's just a matter of time. I think they're just waiting for that one game where it's like, all right, now it's time to go. So,
yeah. Next up, my boys. I guess to celebrate the victory Monday this
congratulations.
week. We barely got. They scared me though. They scared me. Barely got out of this one, and I'm thinking like, oh, this is a lock. I mean, the Dolphins. I mean, they got that win over the Patriots. The Patriots are freaking awful. But aside from that, they've looked horrendous since Tua's injury. So I'm thinking that this is a lock, and the fact that I'm a little nervous about it, I'm like, I'm gonna feel good that for a victory Monday, I'm gonna feel good that Houston lost. But I'm also thinking like AR may not necessarily be the right quarterback to invest his time in.
I don't know, man. I think it's a situation of he needs to sit behind somebody.
Yeah,
I think what should have happened is once you and there's no problem in drafting him. I think the guy's got talent, but I think someone should have been entrenched as the starter and said, okay, you know what, let's work you through and see what happens. Because like you've said on past shows, he's glass, man. He's glass,
yeah.
And it's that, and sometimes you got to throw the ball away. You can't, this isn't college. And I think that's what it is. He still kind of thinks it's college. You can run people over. You can make any throw, and it's going to happen. And you're going to be on college game day, and you're going to be awesome. And that's not it, man. The NFL, after one game, teams are going to they're going to figure you out. So plus with the injuries and such like that, you guys have got to get healthy. You guys are hanging on. I totally get. It's. It's one of those things where if you guys can get healthy, you can make some noise, but it's the health issue. Yeah, AR. I would just roll with Flacco and just see where it lands.
Timing always sucks for us. Our defense is finally a very good unit, and the offense is a mess. It's like we said, like either be glass or be raw. You cannot, as a young quarterback, you cannot be both. You can't be made of glass, and you can't be raw as all sin.
You can't be rawly glass. We'll figure out a term for it. But no, and you're right. It's one of those things. But that's what happens sometimes when you start somebody, especially when you haven't had enough games in college. And I think you're starting to see that when college, and everyone kind of jokes about the quarterbacks coming out. They might be 22 or 23 years old, but you know what? They've played 50, 60 games, and they feel like they're ready to play. It's almost like basketball. Back in the day, guys played 4 years. If a guy left after his third year, it was like a shock. But most guys played 4 years. But those were the guys, if you look at their careers, those guys were better suited to start in the league. Guys who are one and dones don't, unless you are an unbelievable, otherworldly talent, don't work out. So it's going to be interesting what happens. But yeah, I'd sit them and have Flacco lead you to the end.
To your point, I thought of this at some point during this Sunday. Very poor planning on management's part because they knew he was a project. To me, if you know the kid's a project, there's no excuse not to have someone as a stopgap for him to learn the ropes from, or just bring back Uncle Rico. We bring him back for 2 years. Who cares?
Do you think ownership said we want him to start and that's it? Start him.
Jim Irsay is a blowhard and a freaking moron. It wouldn't shock me at all. We're taking this kid and throw him in there to the Wolves. Just thinking about, well, he's not ready. I don't care. Throw me another fifth of vodka or whatever. Yeah, I'm sure that's exactly what happened. It wouldn't shock me. It wouldn't shock me one bit.
And if that's the case, that's a shame because at that point, what's going to happen is you're going to ruin him, and then he's going to end up going somewhere else, and someone's either going to fix him, and he's going to end up turning it around, or he's just going to bounce from team to team till he gets to the point where nobody wants him.
Yeah, worst case. Yeah, in that case, he's Vince Young too.
Dang. Wow.
And nobody wishes that evil upon someone.
Poor Vince.
Our final extra point is a couple quarterback injuries, one of which was a little bit of a scare because Jaden Daniels has been the rookie of the year this season. That doesn't seem like it's too serious, but I guess they didn't need him. They're playing the Panthers and they whooped up on him. The other
Marcus Mariota.
Yeah. Speaking of Vince Young 2.0, Marcus Mariota actually looks like a quality quarterback in this one. And the other one, of course, one of our favorite topics to kick around this season is Deshaun Watson. And Cleveland, I guess, is saved from themselves now that he appears to have an ACL tear. And obviously that means he's out for the season. Now, I don't think Jameis Winston was active for this one either today.
No, he wasn't.
Yeah, so the Browns are really in a tough. They just went from this absolute albatross of a disaster quarterback situation to now having no quarterback. Back to DTR, I guess.
Wow. Let's see. When it comes to Daniels, I don't know. I guess it's kind of like we talked about, the being made of glass. Like that was one of the things, in watching, Washington games, it's kind of talked about. Like you got to make sure you know how to slide. You got to avoid the hit. Now, I think the hit came on that 45-yard run he had, and it was the ribs, and you could tell he was upset about it because he slammed his helmet down before he went to the tent. So it's going to be a precaution. I don't know how serious the ribs are. They didn't really say. And this team's really riding high. Everyone is on the Washington bandwagon right now. So it's going to be interesting to see what they do if it's serious enough. I think Quinn will probably rest him, so we might see Mariota next week.
It would be really eerie because the similarities he has to RG3, and if he winds up being in the same situation where he's this explosive rookie and then gets hurt and it's never the same again.
Yeah, that would be a shame because I think the kid's got talent and I think he's smart enough to realize. I think after this is going to really get him straightened out. He's going to learn, you know what? I got to slide. I can't be putting myself out there like that because one good hit, and it's 3 to 4 weeks. Now, when it comes to Mr. Watson,
Your favorite. Another birthday present.
ACLs. I don't. No, it's not a birthday present. I never want to see that happen to anybody. But it's one of those things where I don't. It seems like ACL is just like the normal like ankle twist nowadays. It's
Yeah,
just like it happens and
right.
such. So I don't know if it's just it's sad, you know, because and the worst part was people were saying people in the stands were cheering for him, fans were cheering that he got hurt. But you know what? This after everything that's happened, this is what Cleveland earned. This is what you took on when you gave this man all that guaranteed money, even though there was all that drama and all that issue. So now your season is done. At this point, you need to strip down your franchise and just start it all over. Like you're not making the playoffs. I'm sorry, Jameis Winston is great and all, nice rah guy. I don't think he's gonna lead you to the playoffs. If you can get pieces and literally, people will probably call it blasphemy for saying it, but trade Myles Garrett. You'll get number ones for him.
Yeah,
Do what you
would.
do what you got to do. You have to think long term for your franchise. And I don't care who you are in Cleveland, you don't believe Watson is your future. You don't. You're regretting it every day that you guys walk into that building. So get your picks because who knows what's going to happen when he comes back from this injury. He may not even come back.
Mm.
So get yourself your picks. You're going to probably be a top 5 pick. Get yourself a new quarterback. It's what it is.
You can't rely on him showing up to play a game when he's healthy, let alone with a busted knee.
Yeah, exactly. So you don't even know what you're going to have next year, And after a while, guys like Garrett and other guys on that team are going to be mad because that was only a year or two ago we were talking about them being possible going to the Super Bowl.
Yeah.
Now we're like they're hodgepodge mess. No, they're not going anywhere.
Cleveland brass, think about it. Myles Garrett could be the next Herschel Walker.
Yeah. Who knows? Talk to Detroit. Detroit might go the way of the Rams and say, you know what, first round pick. Okay, we'll give you some stuff. Go ahead.
We'll give you 3 of them. Our first round pick's gonna suck for the next 4 years.
Yeah. And flip it on draft night. There you go. If you're already going to be in the top 5. So
yeah.
There you go. Do what you got to do. So it's sad. I feel bad for Cleveland fans, but yet again, your upper management has presented you and dealt you this blow.
All right, Bucks McGee, the time has come. Are you ready for a Monday night party, sir? And I'm gonna say take the over.
Oh man, this is gonna be crazy because right now the NFC South is 0-3 this week.
That's right. That's right. We forget you got an early birthday present because the Broncos just absolutely embarrassed New Orleans.
Exactly. Like the presents were just getting handed over. So now, yes, we've got
not just 0-3, 3 blowout losses.
just wrong. So yes, so the class of the NFC South, Baker Mayfield and the boys have to save face here. So it's yeah. It's weird to say it like that, but it is what it is. I think it's gonna be a fun game. I think points are gonna be crazy. I don't even know, man.
I mean, what makes you more nervous? I mean, are you nervous about your run defense against Henry, or do you think Lamar Jackson's going to be able to put on his best Kirk Cousins cape and do what Kirk did over the middle against your kind of softer linebacking core?
No, and one of the reasons is Winfield's back, so I think that helps out a lot. I'm more nervous that the explosion of our run game from last week won't show up again. It won't be close to that. That's what I'm worried about. I think if the run game, if we can at least put up 150 to 175 yards, then we've got a great shot to win this game. I really do. Baltimore, their defense is adequate. Like honestly, and we've talked about their defense. It's not something that it's like, oh man, it's the Baltimore defense. Like they're decent. It's just going to be all right. Who do you want? Who do you want to beat you? Do you want it to be Derrick Henry because all of a sudden Baltimore has decided, oh, we're going to run the ball, and that's why they've gone on this bit of a run? Or do you say, all right, Lamar, show us why you're the MVP. We're gonna force you to do everything.
Yeah, which they haven't gone back to yet. I mean, since they've been getting it to Henry, Lamar's been way in the shadows.
So, but what I think will happen is because we do have a quality run defense, I think what's going to happen is we're gonna force Lamar to do it. We're going to say, all right, go ahead, Lamar, throw it on us, and I think we trust our young corners enough to say, all right, we're going to make plays.
And then at that point, it's almost like you're kind of hoping that the Baltimore play calling contingent's not smart enough to throw over the middle and wants to just force it downfield.
Right, but here's also the problem with Atlanta. They had multiple guys. You know, who does Baltimore really have? Was all of a sudden Mark Andrews going to get 15 targets?
Like, they've got the 3 tight ends. They've got Andrews, Likely, and the other guy. They all get a decent amount of targets, much to fantasy owners' chagrin. And then, of course, you've got to deal with Flowers and Bateman.
Yeah, I think the way that the Bucs play defense, I think that you handle Flowers, and Bateman is a product of that. So I don't want to say I'm not worried, but I'm confident in that. But the way they use the tight ends, I'm not nervous about because it's going to be one guy or not. Like they don't use them consistently enough. So I'm going to say, all right, Lamar, spread it around. Let's see what you can do. And I think you go from there. But on the flip side, their defense is going to give up points, and Baker's going to do what Baker does. Let's be honest. So I'm excited to see how this pans out.
Well, that was my next question because if I read in between the lines about your concerns regarding the consistencies of the run game, is this just going to be another game where you're just like, you know what, in Baker we trust? Let it rip downfield, young fella.
If Tucker and Bucky can't get the run game going, because I honestly think that's what this offense is really gonna be geared now. White was hurt last week. I think this offense works better with Tucker and Irving. We'll see what
move on from Rashad.
Last week's game, you saw it. Those guys were able to run the ball, and they were good. White's a great receiving back, but I just don't think he finds the holes. I just don't think he's explosive enough. So I think you go with what worked for you last week and see what happens. And if somebody needs a running back, you do what you got to do.
Where do you think Baker most successful throwing down the field to? Is it Mike, the future Hall of Famer? Is it Trey Palmer? Is home run threat? Is it Godwin in the slot? Like where?
It's been Godwin.
Godwin.
It's been Godwin. It's been Godwin. Godwin has been incredible. He was back in the slot where he should have been. He wasn't there last year. He's back in his natural position, and he's been unreal. And I think that teams just haven't been able to stop it. So it's one of those things where teams are going to really focus on that. Mike's a little banged up, so we'll see what happens. You still got to cover him. Kate Oddens has started to show up a little bit, so I think it's going to be the other guys that are going to get open. Sterling Shepard.
Thanks, Giants.
He's popped up. So it's one of those things where teams may not sit there and respect those guys, but those guys are performing, and the way Baker moves in the pocket, any guy can make a play. So it's gonna be interesting how Baltimore plays it, but I think it's gonna be a great game.
Real quick before we wrap up, because this is another week with not one but 2 Monday night games, and for some reason it's an exclusive on ESPN Plus, and I don't know why the NFL signed off on this. I can't imagine people are going to sign up for ESPN Plus just to watch Chargers Cardinals.
And they will, man. Let's be real. Chargers Cardinals fans, if they don't have it, are going to do it. they'll do it for the month or whatever, and then they'll cancel it so they can watch their team. Come on, now it's the NFL, dude.
Bucks McGee, be honest. There's no such thing as Cardinals and Chargers fans. The Chargers left San Diego because there were no fans.
There's fans. They have fans, man. Come on. They're just hurt. They're scorned, man. They're scorned. Like Baltimore fans that were formerly Cleveland fans. Like they're scorned, man. You know, like Rams fans, St. Louis Rams fans. They're now St. Louis Battlehawk fans of the XFL. Of the XFL. Like there's fans there, man. You got to give them. And Arizona, well, that's whatever. It's Kyler Murray. That's what y'all got. It is what it is.
So will you sign up for ESPN Plus to watch this?
I actually have it.
Oh, that's right. You told me Verizon Anna or something.
Yeah, it was part of my Verizon package. Yeah, so I have it. So it's like, so I'm not gonna flick it on. I might have it on the other TV in another room, and if there's a break, in Tampa, I'll come in here and look at it real quick or whatever, maybe, or I'll have it on my phone on silent, because everybody knows. Because everybody knows when the Bucs are on, no one talks to me. The neighbors are told not to call the cops because of noise and yelling and such. It's factual, but it's you know what? It's fantasy. People need those points, man. So don't discount that game. I'm sure somebody.
I have one league with about 5 players from that game in it.
So not
from that game, from the 2 games combined.
Oh, but either way, you need that ESPN Plus. You better sign up for it, buddy.
Oh no. I'll just watch it in the Yahoo tracker or the ESPN tracker. All I gotta see is points. I don't just know what happens.
It is what it is.
You know I hate the Chargers. Nothing would make me happier than to see the Cardinals pull some miracle.
That's true. It is the Cardinals, but you know what? It could be an entertaining game. It's not going to be as entertaining as Tampa, Baltimore, but hey, it's a little extra football on a Monday night. You take it for what it's worth.
That's week 7, Bucks McGee, and your team is the cherry on top to finish this one off, sir. Take us off air.
All right, guys. So for you Jets and Steelers fans, I'm sorry. It is what it is. You guys enjoy that mess. I don't know what to tell you. The true game of the week, Detroit, Minnesota, heck of a game. Kansas City Chiefs, you guys are slowly moving to the fraudulent motel. That's all I got for you. And everyone else, have a lovely week and enjoy Monday night.